it's infuriating, actually. Like I mentioned, these people can go to prison and they can be killed for speaking out. And over here, you've got people where it's your First Amendment. Free speech is like, there's a reason why it's in the First Amendment. It's that important. And they are instead, you know, they've got these self-imposed blasphemy laws. Like in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and all those other countries, the government will get you for speaking out. But here, they get each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's really shocking to me.
You're talking about the geography related to all this, and you've mentioned a couple other countries that are not that close to Canada and the US, but you grew up with a lot of those rules in Canada. I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand. Can you just talk, I know we've done this before, and we'll actually link to your original video in this, but can you talk a little bit more about, like, I don't think people can really understand that you grew up Canadian in Western, in a Western country and lived under some of these laws.
Absolutely, and in fact, you know, like Faisal grew up in Iraq, and him and I talk all the time about how his upbringing was more
liberal,
than mine was. And that has a lot to do with the fact that when you're not in a Muslim majority country, sometimes the family members become a lot more zealous because they're super concerned about you picking up ideas from the non-believers. So they want to have like a very tight, you know, they want to make sure that your bubble that you live in is very separated from the non-believers outside.
Were your parents first-generation immigrants to Canada?
Yeah.
And were they fundamentalist on the way in?
No, they weren't. So neither of them were practicing, really. They were just born Muslim and pretty secular upbringings. And it wasn't until, well, they separated, my mom and dad separated, and then my mom was alone with 3 kids. And she started looking for support, started looking for community, and so she went looking at the mosque. She went to the mosque, and that's where she found a man who offered to take her on as his second concurrent wife. So he was already married, already had 3 kids.
This is in Canada.
This is in Canada, and I have to express, like, these are very common things. Like, this isn't just my story. This is very common that there are people that I speak to all over the States, all over the Netherlands, all over Europe, all over UK, Scotland, everywhere, that tell me about how they also grew up in households with more than one mother, more than one wife to the husband, and going to Islamic schools and living in their own little bubble of Sharia. This is, you know, it's not like my story is unique.
Are they technically married? Like, are the mosques actually performing that marriage? It's obviously not done in a civil way in a place like Canada.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. So the first wife would be his legal wife, and then the second wife, third, fourth, would be Islamically married. So yes, the mosques are performing these marriages, and quite often what ends up happening is he will go on social assistance, and that each one of the other wives will apply as single moms. And quite often the government is sort of aware of what's going on, but they don't do anything about it. This is an issue in Canada where there's like millions of dollars spent in this direction, but they don't want to say anything about it because, of course, cultural relativism, and feel, even though it's against the law, this is the subtitle of my book, it's because things are against the law, but when a Muslim does it, people are afraid to touch it with a 10-foot pole because they don't want to come off as being racist or Islamophobic or bigoted or whatever. And then, of course, that is a real slippery slope that can lead to things like the rape gangs in Rotherham, where journalists, politicians, you know, everybody was too scared to say anything because most of these rape gangs were being led by Pakistani Muslim men. And so they stayed quiet about it, and that, of course, allowed these girls, some as young as 11, to continue to be raped. So that's what happens when we turn a blind eye. There are victims under there.
Yeah. So all right, so the subtitle of the book, How Western Liberals Empower Radical Islam. You wake up, you've lived through this. It sounds like basically immediately you realized, oops, this isn't going to be as great as I thought. Like, you sort of thought the dam was going to break, and it was like, holy cow, people are going to start understanding, the left's going to wake up, liberals are going to wake up. You quickly found out that wasn't what was happening. What else happened at that time? Did you start seeing support from places maybe you didn't think you were going to get support? and everything
Yeah,
else?
so initially I came out as anonymous, and I started getting messages like crazy from people all over the Muslim world who were, excited that I was telling my story, happy that I was telling my story, and asking me to be their voice, so telling me their stories as well. And then I got to a certain, it wasn't very long, I was probably about a year into it when I started to just feel ashamed. I was like, here I am using a fake, Confessions of an Ex-Muslim, because I'm afraid to use my real name.
Right, that was your original
That
Twitter
was my
handle,
original
yeah.
thing, yeah, and I don't have my face out there. And these are people that are living in countries like Pakistan where they can go to prison for, just questioning anything to do with the religion that would be considered blasphemy and thrown in prison. And so I started to feel like, here I am living in a free secular country. I have to be, I got to man up. I got to put my face out there, put my name out there. And so that's actually what initially was the catalyst for me to start speaking. So that was their support. And that it still is their support that keeps me going, especially women in countries like Iran when they take off their hijab and they're posting videos. Women in Saudi Arabia taking off their niqabs and burning them, like all the women all over the Muslim majority world that are fighting back against the literal patriarchy.
Yeah.
But those are the women that I really want to be here to support, and they're the fuel.
Are you shocked at how fearful people are in the West, right? Like you're just describing these incredibly brave people who literally could lose their life and their everything else, but that people in the West are afraid to say what they think, be who they are, and the rest of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes me, it's infuriating, actually. Like I mentioned, these people can go to prison and they can be killed for speaking out. And over here, you've got people where it's your First Amendment. Free speech is like, there's a reason why it's in the First Amendment. It's that important. And they are instead, they've got these self-imposed blasphemy laws. Like in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and all those other countries, the government will get you for speaking out. But here, they get each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's really shocking to me and sad.
Were you also shocked that, because there is a world of either ex-Muslims or Muslim reformers or whatever, and I've had some of them on the show actually, were you shocked how sort of at odds even that world sort of seemed to be? So that it's, many times someone like you comes out, you defend liberalism, and then those guys who are supposedly the reformers will even attack someone like you.
Yeah, I think that there's always, the thing is about people that leave their communities, it's like herding cats.
Yeah.
We're not the wallflowers, right? The wallflowers are still in the religion. So I think that when you get a bunch of people that are willing to be vocal in this sphere or willing to walk away from their communities, those people are usually, they've got some fight in them. And so you see all sorts of, schisms and sometimes negative interactions. But I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I come from a world where everybody followed the exact same book, and everybody had to, in Islam it's called a Sirat al-Mustaqim. So it's this long, thin, almost like a tightrope. And underneath the tightrope is hell. And you have to walk this long, straight path, narrow path, and you have to be very, very careful never to stray, or you're going to burn in hell for eternity. So there was no variation in anything. Like everybody thought the same, everybody spoke the same, everybody acted the same. And so now out here in the real world where people have different ideas and people disagree and whatever, I don't see that as a bad thing. I'm happy to see it.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I started doing some shows with people like you, the amount of hate I got from that crew, the supposed reformer crew, I was just like, you know what? I tried, it was an interesting thing. I thought this was a nice way of defending liberalism. And basically, I haven't touched this topic and probably since literally the last time you were here, which is almost 3 years ago. So even though I had Faisal on a few weeks ago, we really just talked about foreign policy and geopolitics. Because there's a certain opportunity cost that comes with defending liberalism in liberal Western societies, which is quite bizarre.
Yeah, but you know what? You're doing it.
I guess
We're doing the best we can.
We're doing the best we can. Do you think, so this is sort of where I'm at with all of this, and we don't have to make this specifically about religion. Do you think there is something inherently flawed, or that liberalism has some sort of weakness that these people have been able to either exploit or unearth that maybe we couldn't see before?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that that's true, and they've been very transparent about that.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about spirituality instead of nonstop yelling, check out our spirituality playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.